I actually have no idea if they're still receiving their stipend during this period or not. Look, I don't know that any of these people are doing it for the $25 a day that they're getting paid.
One of the most common questions people have had as it relates to the YSL trial is, what about the jury? This trial has dragged on for months and months and months and is currently in a pause.
Okay. Now, let's go move over to the jurors. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Today is a day that they were supposed to come back.
That's
Right.
right.
They're
Mm-hmm.
told, hey, there's nothing happening. Now, do you think there will be a polling done on jurors to find out if they, in fact, know something is going on? Because it's all over the world. You know what I'm
Well,
saying?
that's all. Yeah, yeah. Well, that's always an option that the parties can ask for. But, this case has received so much publicity from even before day one. And it's received a lot of publicity since the jury's been seated and they've started to hear evidence. And Judge Glanville has consistently instructed them to, on their duties and their obligations and on not to seek out social media and to avoid. And presumably they've been doing everything that the judge has instructed them on.
Now, another question is, will the jurors be able to adequately do their job in judging this case, in judging the outcome of this case? See, the jurors are to take the facts and apply the law, the instructions that the judge gives them, and come to a verdict. But that's going to require them to recall and review all of their notes. And it's questionable as to whether they'll be able to recall because they've been on pause for over a month. It's questionable as to whether they'll be able to rely on their notes because, as we can see, Brian Steele, and to his credit, is asking for the judge to remove some of their notes due to what Steele argues is improper testimony after the ex parte motion.
Okay.
But the way I understand the case law is that once Attorney Weinstein filed that motion, which the Honorable Judge Krause eventually granted. So the way I understand the case law is everything that happened after the filing by Mr. Weinstein on June 12, 2024 is invalid.
Okay.
I just want you to know that there was a witness testifying. That's why I thought it's important, which will potentially, if you determine it, require the jury to have their notes, if you require it taken away and then wiping out what they heard. I just want you to be aware of that.
Okay, I'm not sure if I follow what you're saying now.
So there was a witness testifying. His name is Mr. Copeland.
Yeah.
After Judge Glanville denied that motion, the
Okay.
jury heard from a witness on the afternoon of of June 12th, June 13th, June 14th, and then June 17th. So I just want you to be aware.
All right, I understand what you're saying now. All right, thank you.
Now, as you will see from this infamous Sylvia interview with Doug Weinstein, the jurors are only earning $25 per day during their jury service. And it is questionable as to whether the jurors are being paid their meager $25 per day. Because, come on, we have to admit, $25 per day is next to nothing. But it's questionable as to whether they're even receiving that $25 per day right now.
I actually have no idea if they're still receiving their stipend during this period or not. And you actually may know that more than I
Oh,
do.
you know
I
I
haven't
know.
paid this.
Look,
What's that?
You know I know.
I know you know. So I don't know. If you know that they're not receiving their stipend, that's a different issue. But I know on past breaks they've continued to receive their stipend.
Yes, but this is a pause now. This is a totally different situation. This is a pause.
So you think they're not getting paid?
This is a pause.
I'm going to ask you now. No, I don't know anything about their pay.
Recall. Look, I don't recall.
Now, generally speaking, we never want to question the jury's integrity or their resolve to do their job. Instead, it is better to assume that the jury is going to do the best job possible, absent any evidence to the contrary. As of now, spectators on the outside have every reason to believe that the jury is going to do its utmost to render the decision and the verdict that is most consistent with the evidence and arguments in court. However, the jurors are human, and we all, seeing this trial as it unfolds, we can all imagine ourselves in that position and the confusion and even frustration that it may produce.
It's easy for any of these jurors to have avoided jury duty, and they didn't do that. They opted in, and I think that's because they appreciate their civic duties and want to fulfill their obligations, and clearly, could afford at least to sit through a 4 to 6 month trial. I know we're beyond that now, so I'd like to think, at least for the moment, that they're continuing to do what the judge has instructed them to do.
For example, we have a judge, Judge Glanville, for 6 months, and then all of a sudden we have a new judge. Will they give the jurors an explanation for the change or not? As of now, we don't know. Will the jurors know why they're being told to potentially disregard, tear up, throw away, or otherwise hand over the notes they have about the testimony of Woody Copeland? We don't know how that will be explained. So there are a lot of questions, even taking for granted that the jurors are going to act with the utmost integrity, which we would expect them to do. They're still human, and there are a lot of questions as to how they could come to a reasonable verdict with all of the confusion, commotion, and outright disarray that this trial has produced.
But this circumstance is a little bit different. The news is showing that one of the defendants, attorney who's, Young Thug's attorney is being held in contempt. Then you hear the judges being asked to be recused, right? And it's all over the news. So the assumption of them not knowing or not even seeing or hearing, it's kind of like, unless they're living underneath a rock.
Well, I guess I am, despite all evidence that may have presented itself in this case to the contrary, I'm going to continue to try to have faith in the system and hope that those jurors have been following the instructions. I guess my main point is, um, if they're not following the judge's instructions here, there have been a lot of opportunities earlier for them to also not follow those instructions. Now, I don't know. They're human beings. How do you get sent out of a jury room? I mean, sit out of the courtroom and into your jury room for 4 or 5 hours and not be curious about what happened and not take a peek. But they seem to be serious people. I think they understand the seriousness of this trial and their responsibilities.